Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining our webinar today. I'm really excited for today's webinar because we are talking about our Direct View LED all-in-one solutions, specifically our LDC series, which is the configurable series here at ViewSonic. This is definitely one of our unique ones because we're kind of breaking away from our traditional 16:9 unique aspect ratios. And so before we begin and I invite our speakers, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items. We are raffling off our VG1656N. It's our portable monitor with that built-in battery. So stick around till the end, and if you are our lucky winner, you will get an email notification. And then secondly, if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the Q&A chat, and we'll do our best to get to the questions towards the end of the webinar. And with that said, let me invite our guest online.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Shane Roma. I am a product manager here at ViewSonic. I cover our direct view LEDs, which is why I'm on this webinar. So I've been in the industry for a little over 15 years, been with ViewSonic for coming up on about a year now. And with me is Mr. Moz, who is one of our field solutions engineers. Moz, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm on the field solutions team here at ViewSonic. Been with ViewSonic about 10 years, been in the industry about 15. Specializing lately the direct view products and all the other products that ViewSonic offers.
Yeah, what does your day-to-day look like here at ViewSonic?
Day-to-day is being on installs, scheduling installation calls, helping customers configure our all-in-ones solutions along with the LDC configurations.
Great. Yeah. Awesome. Well, cool. Well, we are so excited to be here. We're coming at you live from our headquarters here in Southern California. We're wearing short sleeves because even though it's almost November, it's 90 degrees outside. So, but we're excited to be here. We're so happy you're here with us. We hope you find this informative. What we're going to do is we're going to briefly just kind of give you an overview of our solutions just to kind of set the stage. And then we're going to quickly move into some live demonstrations of the customizable products as well as our configurator. So you can see how easy it is to create direct view LEDs specific to your space. Like Mina said, they break free from the traditional constraints of either 1080p or 4K or 16:9, although we can certainly do that too, and that also happens. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in, okay? So ViewSonic, we have been doing direct view LEDs now for about 5 years, but we've been around a lot longer. We have been involved in some form of visual solutions. Many of you may know us from our monitors. You may know us from our interactive flat panels, commercial displays, etc. We are worldwide. However, we are headquartered right here in Southern California. So we are a privately held US-based company, US-based product management team, field support, tech support, customer support, etc. So, but you can see here, we do have offices all over the world, and we're ready to support you. So this is kind of the history of ViewSonic. What we're going to do is we're actually going to read through each one of these individually. Going to spend about the next 20 minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
Awesome.
This is just to show that we've been around since 1987. Fantastic year for something to be created, by the way, I hear. But we've been around for a bit, and again, kind of a leader in those visual solutions. So Direct View LED is really our next phase of still being that leader in visual solutions, but this time on a much grander scale. What makes us unique? What makes us unique is really our partnership with you. You know, I mentioned that we are US-based here in California with field team members all over the country, as well as Canada and Latin America. But our partnership with you is really what makes us unique. We're here to help you be successful. Direct View LED can sometimes seem intimidating. It can seem complex. Maybe there's been some negative experiences. We're here to make it as accessible and as easy as possible, from pre-sales all the way through post-installation support and troubleshooting. So whatever you need, we're here to help. And that partnership is what makes us unique. We're large enough to have size and scale, as you saw a few slides ago, but we're small enough that we really are able to focus on these AV applications, our AV integrators, our end users, our channel partners. So we're here to really partner and support you. So with that, I wanted to briefly cover some of the services we do offer because it is going to be relevant to this customizable product that we're talking about. So we take a holistic approach, again, from pre-sales all the way through troubleshooting. So you may hear some terms during this conversation, so just wanted to give you some context to what we're talking about. The first step when you've decided you do want to make the journey into Direct View LED and you want to make that journey with ViewSonic is to set up a design consultation call. That's a no-cost call that we offer with someone like Moz. or another member of our field solutions engineering team, experts in the field, where they're going to go over with you, hey, what does your space look like? What are some considerations you need to keep in mind, your content, things like that. And a little later in this, we're going to go through some kind of scenarios to show you what that's like and how we can provide an output based off that. Once you move past that and you order the product, we also offer a no-charge pre-installation call. That's really to make sure that the install is going to be ready, the site's going to be ready, kind of a measure twice, cut once type of scenario. There's a lot of gotchas. As much as we make it much easier than it used to be and simplify it, there's still some things we need to keep in mind, especially with the power, where it's mounting, making sure even you have lifts or other equipment there, because those types of things can cause significant delays, and we want to make sure that we can get in and get that up as soon as possible. Once we're on site, ViewSonic does offer on-site guided installation services. So someone like Maz will go on site with your installation team and help guide that installation. So as simple as, hey guys, here's how many crates we have and here's the order that we should open them up in. Here's how we should lay out the mounting. Here's how we should put up the cabinets, alignment, tiles, the considerations, things like that, to make sure that it's as successful as it can be, as well as provide like commissioning and training as well. And then finally, of course, that once we sell and install it, you know, that's kind of just the beginning of our relationship. We're also there to support. So if there are any issues throughout the life of the product, we do have a US-based tech support team that's there to support you as well. All right, some other quick things I want to cover, just because this is going to be a little different than what you might expect from a traditional customizable direct view LED solution. And that is that all ViewSonic direct view LEDs are all in one. So our pre-configured, which I'll show you in a second, but also our configurable are all in one. So what does that mean? Well, really that means it's going to make it as simple as possible without compromising on quality and compromising on the experience. So the power supply, the video processing, everything is self-contained into either a control bar, which we'll show you, or a rack mount control box, but everything's going to be all in one. It also means that it's going to be software free. So when you think of direct view LED, you might think of things of like image calibration or tile calibration, sorry, or image stitching, mapping, things like that. That's all done. So it's a software free integration experience. It makes it as simple as possible. All the tiles are going to be pre-calibrated, and then the control bars are going to have the configuration for how everything needs to be connected. There's no mapping or anything. It's about as plug and play as a customizable direct view LED can get. Power does terminate to standard 20 or 30 amp plugs, makes that a lot easier. And there's some image processing in there too, which we'll cover. So some basic image, of course, making the image large, but then there's also some like quad view and some other picture-in-picture processing that we offer in it. So real quick outline just to kind of set the stage as to where these products fit. Behind us here is our LDS series. This is our mobile series. It's foldable. This is going to be one of our all-in-one. All of them are all-in-one. So this is going to be an all-in-one. It ships as you see it, but if you want a mobile solution, this is what you're going to be looking for, and you probably have seen us in videos or talk about this product before. We do have pre-configured, so before we get into these configurable ones, if you're just looking for standard aspect ratios and standard resolutions, those you can get today without needing to go through this customizable process. The benefit of the mobile and the pre-configured one is standard aspect ratios, standard resolutions, but also they're in stock. So they're here in California, they're quick ship, ready to go. So these fit quite a few applications. What we're going to talk about today is when we need to customize beyond these traditional sizes, resolutions, and aspect ratios. And we offer these again in 1080p as well as in 4K sizes. Again, some of the benefits of that is things like single part numbers, stocked in the US. This is actually an image of an install we did. There's a case study for it as well online of our pre-configured that went into a car dealership. So they fit in a lot of applications. So again, we're going to go over the customizable ones, but keep these in mind too, because these are definitely going to be the easiest way into direct view LED if it does fit your space. We do have a comparison chart that I just wanted to make you aware of. So if you do have questions, okay, we're kind of going over a bunch of different series. What are the differences and things like that? This is a bit of an eye chart, but we do have this PDF available that you can download so you can quickly see the differences. But of course, always reach out to us if you have any questions. And then finally, the reason we're here, which is our configurable series. So these are our direct view LEDs that we can put in any configuration, different shapes, different sizes, different pixel pitches. And this is where we break free from those constraints. So when you have a specific space where it's like, hey, I want something a little different than what's pre-configured, but I still want to keep it simple and accessible, this is the series you're going to look for. So we're going to show you a quick video on this series. And then when we come back, Moz and I are going to walk through some sample applications, and we're also going to walk through the configurator to show you how easy it is to make these custom configurations for your space. All right, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the video. Some cool imagery there and transitions and things flying around, but hopefully you showed a good job of showing some of the possibilities with it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the configurator. This configurator is available on our website. It is something that you do have access to. However, I would still encourage you, we're going to show you how to use it, and we're going to show you some of the possibilities, but definitely still encourage you to reach out to your ViewSonic rep to go through this design consultation process, because while the configurator is going to let you create it, having someone like Moz go through this with you is also going to ensure you're keeping other things in consideration, like power or mounting or things like that. That can really save you a lot of heartache if things aren't considered on the front end and then you have to deal with it on the back end. So we'll go over some of that during this as well. So this is our configurator. If we go ahead and click here and get started, we can see there's quite a bit going on. So we're going to focus on the left-hand side and kind of walk through what these things are. On the left hand, if you go down to this drop down, this is where you're going to select your cabinet size and your pixel pitch. I'm not going to get too crazy in depth on what those are, but think of these as displays, essentially. These cabinets are displays, and you put a bunch of them together, and then you put tiles on the displays, and then you create a seamless image like what you see on here. The reason for different sizes is the 27-inch cabinets are a 16:9 aspect ratio cabinet. The 31-inch is a 4:3. Really, that I'll show you when to kind of select which one and where it makes sense. So don't worry too much about that right now. And then when you see the 120, you can ignore the 0, but the 12 or the 15 or 18, that's the pixel pitch. So that's how dense the tiles are. That's how many pixels are on there. The lower the pixel pitch, the more LEDs are on there, and thus the higher the resolution. So once we go down from that, we've picked our model. You'll go to installation type. If you hover over here, we don't have the drop down. It kind of goes through what each one is. But long story short, I mentioned there's a control bar. So this control bar here is where all the magic happens. So this is where the power supply is going to be and all your video processing. You can mount this separately from the direct view. And you can put it visibly because it is a speaker as well. It is a sound bar, so there is audio that can come out of it. But you can also hide it. You can put it behind like behind a wall or something like that. You can also hide it behind the direct view LED if you'd like. Or you can do a rack mount box as well. So we'll go over those options, but that is something you are going to have to select before you can proceed. And then we can start doing things like, okay, what is your available space? So we have some default things here that you can put in, but if you know what your available wall space is, we can adjust this and then we can plan the video wall accordingly. Other things like voltage, we'll go in why that's important. Plug type, this is going to be for the US, so you want to pick that. But if you're in a different region, you can certainly pick a different plug type. Units, we use Freedom units here at our headquarters in the United States. So we're going to go with Imperial, but if you want to do metric as well, you certainly can. And then some quick hits. as well as columns and rows. So with direct view, everything's going to be in like an array. And so you'll hear things like, oh, I'm looking for a 5x5 or things like that. And what's being referenced is the columns and the rows. So how many cabinets are in the columns? So if you think of Excel, vertical columns, and how many rows, right? And then we can put a custom image up here. So if we're not digging this this mountain view image, if you have something you want to put on, you certainly can. But we're going to stick with this Aurora right there because it looks pretty cool. And then we can also add spare LED modules. So all of our products, including our pre-configured, come with 5% spares at no cost. These are calibrated spares. This is if something gets damaged or there's a failure, you can easily swap them out. They're all front serviceable. One of the benefits, though, of our configurable is that they are made to order. So what that means is we can add more spares if we want, and this is where we can put it here. So if you'd like more spares, throw it in here and we can add it, and then they'll be calibrated with the rest. So some tips and tricks of why you may want to use different size cabinets. So these are our 27-inch cabinets. So we're going to do a 1.5 millimeter pixel pitch, and we'll do a standard control box. The standard means it's going to be mounted underneath it. Now, I mentioned the 27-inch is a 16:9 aspect ratio. So what that means is there's a 1-to-1 relationship here between the number of rows and columns and the aspect ratio. What I mean by that is if the columns matches the rows, you have a 16:9. So what I've just done here with a 5x5 is I've created a 136-inch. So if we go over here, we can see some more details. I mentioned the array. This is going to quickly tell you what that array is. It's a 5x5. Here's how many total cabinets you have. It's just going to be simple multiplication here. Here's the overall screen area, product weight, etc. But then a lot more important stuff like the screen resolution is going to be here. So we can see this is actually the same size as our pre-configured. So it's going to be 5x5. We're going to have a nice clean 1080p resolution, 16:9 aspect ratio, as well as your viewing distance and then your power consumption. So we'll cover that in more detail, but just wanted to show how easy it was. If you were just looking for something that's like 16:9, we can just keep on going up here. And as long as the columns match the rows, we've got a nice 16:9. Why that's important? Most content's going to be 16:9. Whenever we break free from that, now you need to have something that's capable of doing custom resolutions and custom aspect ratios. It does complicate things. A lot of times there's good reasons to do it, but it's just something to keep in mind. So an example of why you might want to do this is, let's say you want a 190-inch. Well, we don't have a pre-configured 190-inch. We have a 136 and a 163. You can go in here and easily make that 190-inch by just making sure the columns and the rows match, and we can continue to go up. So just kind of wanted to show you that and that relationship, but also show that this does show the aspect ratio. We can also do things like click this quick button. It's going to take all the available space and still keep it at 16:9. So we offer a few ways to do it, but just kind of wanted to quickly cover that. 27-inch is probably going to be the easiest way to see that, but sometimes we might want to do 31-inch, which has a 4:3 aspect ratio, and we can create different configurations. All right, Maz, anything you wanted to add on to that?
No, I don't have anything.
God, all I heard was I did such a good job.
You did a great job,
everything.
Shane, yeah.
So I'll take it. I'll take it. Cool. So what we're going to do now is we are going to go through some sample scenarios. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reset this. We're going to go through some sample scenarios and go through some common questions, and we're going to build some. We're going to build some custom things. So the first one we're going to go through is probably our most common request, which is video conferencing. We've got a high-end video conferencing room. A standard display, 90-something inch, isn't going to be big enough. We want to make an impression, and we want to go direct view LED. The prices have come down, the performance gone up. Hey, we want to look at it now. So let's go ahead and walk through that. I'm going to pretend like I'm the customer, and then I've called in. We're on a meeting. Hello, Maz. You're more handsome than I thought you would be, but let's talk about direct view LED. So I've got a video conferencing room. I would like this. What are some questions that you would ask to help get to the bottom of what the best solution is going to be?
Sure, Shane. So first thing we need to know is how big is the wall going to be that we are going to put this display on?
Yeah, perfect.
Also the size of the room, because depending on the size of the room, that's going to dictate the size of our screen along with our pixel pitch.
Perfect.
So we definitely need to take all those things into consideration.
Why does the size of the room impact the pixel pitch?
Because the larger the room, the larger the viewing distance, and the larger the pixel pitch you want.
Okay.
So if we're at a 10-foot is the front row versus a 20-foot is the front row, we're going to have a different pixel pitch for the optimal viewing of the screen.
Got it. Yeah. So what Moz is talking about is the relationship between pixel pitch and viewing distance. So there's a relationship between pixel pitch and resolution, and then pixel pitch and viewing distance. Just because you can get a tighter pixel pitch or higher resolution doesn't necessarily mean you want to. And this is part of the configurator where it says the optimal viewing distance. So what Moz is talking about is when you're designing this system, where is the audience going to be? And that's going to help dictate what your pixel pitch is. So if they're going to be closer to the screen, then you want a lower pixel pitch. If they're going to be farther away from the screen, you want a higher pixel pitch. Let's assume for the sake of argument, hey, we're only going to be like 10, 15 feet away, maybe even closer because this is a conference room. So it's going to be a smaller space like that. And let's say we're going to be about there. So, all right, I want to put it up. Any considerations I need to make beyond just the size? What else?
Size, power consumption.
Power consumption. So
power
that's
consumption
good.
is a real big one, right?
Yeah.
And then also we want to look at the weight. We want to make sure our wall is able to support our display.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want the display falling, and we don't want the wall falling down. Right?
Yeah.
That's awful.
All good considerations. Yeah. Another thing we might want to know is like, hey, do we want this control box? Oops.
Yep. I was getting there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, do we want the control box to be visible on the bottom of the display? Are we going to be using the speakers? Do we want hidden? Is there a media cabinet or a media room behind this room where we can possibly hide the control bar?
Gotcha. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to make this smaller. And so what we're doing here is you can see we've got standard control box, separated control box. So for this, let's say we want to hide it behind. I've let Moz know like, hey, I want a really clean experience. I have some external audio system. I don't really need the speakers from this. We can go ahead and we can hide it, and it creates a nice clean experience for us. So we can go ahead and do that. Now, here's the thing. I've got a really wide room. What if I didn't want 16 by 9? Is it possible to do like a 32 by 9 aspect ratio with this?
Of course it is. Of course it is. So we'll just go ahead and add some cabinets to the width. Yep, there we go.
Awesome. So what we just did too that you saw is, remember the relationship between 16 by 9 and the number of columns and rows being 1 to 1. Well, that means if we double the columns, now we make a 32 by 9 configuration. So it's really easy to do that if that's what you're looking to do. Let's go ahead and change that.
So with the 32 by 9 too, we're also going to ask what's driving the board.
Gotcha.
We want to make sure the content is able to be displayed properly on the board.
Yeah. So why is that so important for something like this?
Because, you know, with a large screen like that, we don't want black bars, right? We want to fill out the screen or not have a stretched image either.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes a lot of sense to me. Some other things we can see as we've been updating it, we can see that our array changed, our cabinet changed, but importantly, here's also the resolution. So this is nice because it's a nice clean 3840 by 1080, which is literally just double the 1920 for the horizontal, and then the 1080 vertical stays the same. So one of the other things that we'll go over with you is some of the image processing I was talking about is we could do one big 32 by 9 image, assuming your source is able to output that. Which is a good thing to consider. Hey, is what you're feeding it going to be able to support this resolution that the screen allows? Or we can do 2 sources into it, and then we can do picture by picture, which will split it for you, and that's all built in. So here we just quickly did this 32 by 9, and this is pretty ready to go.
Yeah.
So I know we kind of flew through it, but that's how easy it is we can go through. If this were a real world environment, Moz would be clicking through, asking questions and able to quickly do this. And that's when we go to generate the spec sheet. We can put some information here. We have all the information here. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to export it to a PDF. So that's going to show up. We can download that. I'll show that. Actually, let's go ahead and show that now once that downloads. All right. And this is what the output is going to look like. So this may be a little hard to see. And so it's going to have all the information here. Some of the other things that Moz was going through is like your power consumption. So an important consideration for this, we can see that the power consumption is either 7 amps or 22.22. What that means is we need a 30 amp circuit, don't we?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yes, we do.
30 amp circuits aren't super common. They're not just lying around on walls for no reason. So that means we're probably going to have to bring an electrician and other things like that. So again, these are the things that you want to cover on that front end, have those conversations, have us be able to tell you like, hey, we're not just going to be able to plug this in. We got to get going. What are some other considerations? Can we just throw a 30 amp plug on the wall, or what are some other considerations for that?
Definitely don't want to just throw a 30 amp plug on the wall.
Yeah.
30 amp plug is about that big. It's about 3 inches. It's going to stick out. So with our slim wall mounts, we won't be able to put the direct view up in front of that wall mount. So we want to make sure we have a recessed 90-degree plug, or that plug is going to be out of the way somewhere.
Awesome. Yeah, all things we want to plan for, because if you don't plan for that ahead of time, running a 30 amp circuit is typically not something you're going to do on the fly. Having the wall box ready, or having some sort of in-wall box in general, is something you definitely need to plan ahead for. So these are the times to have those conversations with your customer or with your internal teams. And that's where we're here to help guide that, to make sure that we're setting you up for success and it's not going to be a surprise later on. There's no surprise cost or delays or things like that. So this configurator, though, is going to give you a lot of that information so you can have that. I mentioned the spare LED modules as well. So what you're going to see here on the parts list, and I'm going to zoom in just a little. This is the full parts list for what you would need to order. And in fact, there's actually only going to be 2 part numbers. You have the cabinets that we discussed. Now, this part number is not only going to come with the cabinets, it's going to come with the tiles. It's also going to come with all the mounting hardware, and it's going to come with the cable. One of the reasons it's so important to do the recess is because all of our direct view LEDs are going to be within 4 inches sticking out from the wall. So they're going to be ADA compliant. If we don't do things like recessed wall boxes for power, then we risk going past that. And so a lot of the environments that these are going to be in, ADA compliance is going to be required. So we do want to make sure we're within those 4 inches. But we do include everything that's needed in order to make that happen. And then this part number, this control box, that's going to be the processor. So traditional LEDs, you may have to get like a third-party processor. It's going to be very dependent on what it is. We're taking care of all of that for you. So when you go through and do the configuration, it's going to tell you what part number you need for the control box. And then when you order it, it's going to be custom built for this application. So the firmware, the image stitching, everything's going to be already pre-done in that. So when you get it, it comes with a wiring diagram. Someone like Moz is going to walk you through it, and it's going to be fairly plug and play. So this is part of that software-free experience where you can go up and you can get that going. And then the spare LED modules, you can see 6 are included, so it's not going to be charged separately. But if we wanted to, we could add more to that, and then you would put that on the order as well. But try to keep it as easy as possible for you, so that you don't have to worry about it. So let me go back to our go back to the configurator here. Full screen again. All right, so that was a pretty simple one. Let's go ahead and clear that. So now let's go through a slightly more complicated design. You know, the conference room's pretty easy. Typically, it's going to be somewhat standard resolutions for a conference room, because when we think about our sources, they're going to be Microsoft Teams rooms. Maybe you're doing 16 by 9, maybe it's 21 by 9, maybe it's 32 by 9. But conference rooms typically are going to be in those standard resolutions. You're going to want to keep it either like in that 1080, maybe 4K range, but probably 1080, given the application and budget and things like that. It's definitely used for a purpose. You're going to be communicating information. You're going to be seeing things. You need it to be large. So those are going to be one of the more simpler designs where we can break away from maybe what's pre-configured, but it's still going to be kind of contained in a box. Let's get a little slightly crazier, and let's go to a lobby. So a lobby environment is going to be a little different, because this is where a brand or a company might want to make a statement. They have a space in lobbies. They're not creating the lobbies around the direct view typically. A lot of these are going to be renovations or retrofits. So you're designing that direct view or that large experience around that lobby. So you're going to have very fixed dimensions. And again, you're looking to make a statement. So there's more opportunity for custom content to be created, for you to be driving it from something different, versus that conference room experience, which is going to be using more off-the-shelf equipment at those standard aspect ratios. So if we move to that lobby type environment, a lot of the things are going to be the same. We're going to want to know dimensions and things like that. Just for the sake of argument, I'm going to say that this lobby, the available wall space we have is 25 feet, and we're going to say by 15. So it's a little different. And then now the next thing is, hey, I just want to fill this wall. I have all this available space. Can I just fit this wall?
Yeah, we could definitely fit the wall.
Sure. What are some considerations we should make for that, though?
So things to consider, same things, the structure,
Yep.
structural integrity. Do we have doorways available, that are.
How do we get the equipment in there, right?
How are we going to get the equipment in there? Is it upstairs, downstairs, in the basement? All those things are something we need to consider. Again, with the power requirements too.
Yep.
And how we're going to drive it, because now we're looking at a way larger wall, custom content, and make sure that the customer understands that the content's going to be custom and at possibly a higher resolution or different templates and quadrants for possibly advertising or whatever content they're running.
Great. Yeah. So Moz brings up a lot of excellent points. So falling outside of this configurator, but once you go into lobbies, it's probably not going to be on the ground like a conference room, right? Conference room, you probably just go in there and do it. In a lobby, now we got to start looking at closing the lobby down, which is in a public space. We got to do it safely. There may be things like permits and other things required in there because it is a public environment. Now we're looking at, do we need to rent lifts? Are we going to have access to it? Are we going to be able to bring this stuff in? And these are questions that maybe fall outside of the actual product, but it's part of the partnership that we provide to make sure that you're set up for success, because you don't want to find out when you're trying to get the products in that, hey, this crate's not going to fit through the door and we're going to have to hand walk everything in, or hey, we don't have a lift, or whatever it is. So all good things to consider. This also gets into just because we can doesn't mean we should. However, let's go ahead and do that. So we can do something like fit to wall, and this is going to keep it at a standard aspect, or it's going to keep the width, and we're going to be able to do this. Now, this 1.2 millimeter pixel pitch, though, that's a really tight pixel pitch. So you can see this resolution pretty nuts.
Yeah.
The other thing about a lobby environment is that you're typically going to be farther away. It's going to be up high. People are going to be walking by. So this would be an application where maybe we do go with a larger pixel pitch. And this one, we're going to still keep it hidden because we don't want to see it. But we can continue to add things like rows. Now, we're going to get this weird little error that says the total quantity of cabinets cannot be used. Now, can we take a guess as to why it's telling us that?
Oh, no, we have maxed out on power.
We have maxed out at power. So if we're looking at the 110 volts, we're looking at this 53. What this means is two 30-amp circuits. The control bars allow for two 30-amp circuits. We have gone above our power requirements. So what do we got to do? We got to increase the power. So we can increase the wattage, Ohm's law, etc. It's going to be amperage times voltage. So we can't increase the amperage anymore. So what do we got to do? Got to increase the voltage to get the same amount of wattage. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring it up to this 230 volts. And now, magically we can add more. Now, similar to a 30 amp circuit, here in the US anyways, 200 and plus amps, so let's say 240 for the sake of argument, is not common in the sense of your wall outlet's not going to be out that. It is probably going to be something that you have to run specifically for it. So this is going to be another consideration for, let's make sure we're thinking about this ahead of time. We're going to make it easy. We're going to make sure that you're aware of, hey, here's the voltage and here's the amperage, and we get in front of it, and then that output is going to show it. But these are important things to consider. Now, even though we've gone to a 1.8 millimeter pixel pitch, we can see our resolution is still somewhat standard, right? 3840 by 2860. Look at that. Yeah. 4K resolution.
Love it.
Right there, even though we're at a 26 inch screen. That's huge. Big.
That's huge.
Pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, we've just walked through and now we actually have that design. So all the available space is taken up, and you know what power you need. You know that you're going to need that content at that 4K. What's beautiful is we do happen to be at the 16:9 aspect ratio.
Even better.
So that's even better.
Yep.
However, let's say this lobby is more like a pillar. So now we're going to start taking away some columns here. Let's say it's more like this. And this is not an uncommon application, by the way. We actually just had this install not too long ago where it was in a lobby type environment and they did not have that width. It was going to be on a wall, but they wanted that height. Yep. So these are the situations where you are going to have to make those considerations for content, because now you can see now we're at a very odd resolution where the horizontal is actually lower than the vertical. So if you just send 16:9 content to it, it's either you're going to have the black bars or it's going to be squished. So the consideration you need to make outside of this is, hey, we need to make content that's specific for this environment, and we need to make sure that we have sources capable of outputting at that custom resolution, whether it's PCs, whether it's digital signage players, image processors, etc. But that's how easy it was to do that, where we say like, hey, this was our available space, and we just start taking away columns adding rows, things like that. It's something that you can do, or like I said, let us help you do that. All right. Let's do, we already talked about the mounting, which is we're getting the product weight here. This is in kilograms. For whatever reason, this is not in freedom units. But if we do the conversion, these are pretty heavy.
Very heavy.
And a lot of times these walls probably weren't designed to contain 375 kilograms. So this is when also part of that call is someone like Moz is going to start talking about things that you need, like backing, right? Do we need to put some reinforcement on it, some backing, or some other special considerations to get it there and get it there safely? All right. Anything else you wanted to add to that before we move on to our next one?
No, I think we got it all covered there.
All right. So our next one that we're going to go through is we just kind of go up in complexity of a common application is going to be a command and control center. So we're seeing these more and more. Command and control centers historically, many years ago, were using more display-based video walls. They were one of the first applications to start adopting direct view LED. One of the reasons for that is because the display-based video walls are going to have things like bezels, and it's going to hide information. You have to compensate for it. It's expensive. And then as those start failing and you have to replace them, there's color calibration issues, and it creates a lot of challenges. Direct view LED is seamless. They're front serviceable. You can calibrate the tiles together so we can get like the extra spares and things like that. So over the useful life of the system, which direct view LED is going to be a lot longer than the display-based, like the LCD panels, you're able to replace those much easier, keep them color calibrated. Here's where we might get a little funkier though. So in a command and control environment, we now have some other complications. So if you think of that command and control, you've got maybe a very wide room. So someone like Moz is going to say like, hey, how big is your room? And we might say that this is 50 feet wide. That's a bit insane, but let's just say it's 50 feet wide. And then we're just going to keep on adding columns. So here we've run into our power limit. So if you get this message that the total quantity of cabinets cannot be used, it's because power, always look to the right. If you're seeing this coming close to 60, that means we've run into our power limit and we need to up the voltage. So let's go ahead and do that. We will run into another challenge, which I'll show you in a second, which is we're going to keep on going. But for command and control, we do prioritize resolution as well. So it's not just about viewing distance, and sometimes they are going to be close to it. We want to make sure that we can see this content in high resolution. So we're going to increase the pixel pitch, and then we're going to do that hidden again. So it says this installation type is not supported. The reason why is because the control box can handle 8.2 million pixels. You don't need to remember that, but that's what it can handle. Yeah. That's when we now need to start using multiple control boxes. So we're going to go to our rack mount. This is the introduction to this. So instead of having that control bar that looks like a speaker bar, we're going to go to our rack mount control box. This can handle more pixels. It can handle 9.3 million pixels, but we can also stack them. And so once we start get to higher resolutions, this is when we're going to then move into multiple control boxes, and these do get more complicated. So again, we're here to walk you through them, but wanted to call that out, that once you start doing that, if you see that, then it's the resolution is too high and we need to go ahead and increase it. So we have our wall size, really long, we can put a lot of information on it. Another thing we need to consider now is the control bar is typically right with the direct view. Mm-hmm. The rack mount is not, obviously. It's going to be in the rack room or wherever that rack is. So we also need to know how long it's going to be. Part of the rack mount and what makes it unique is that we do have pre-configured, pre-terminated power cables. So it's going to make it a lot easier to get the power there versus you going like directly into the circuit breaker. So we're going to say for this, though, that we're between 60 to 150 feet. So if you don't know how long, go with the longer one, and then we can refine it from there. But always best to kind of plan for the worst, and then you can always take it down. You'd rather do that than find out, get on site and find out. Too short. Yeah, be too short. Yeah. That's a much worse problem to have. But to go over some considerations for this, we can see pretty crazy aspect ratio, right? And again, imagine that environment. What's something else we imagine with a command and control environment? We're showing a lot of sources on there at the same time. So something Moz will ask is, okay, how many sources do you want to show up there? And this is, again, where it starts to get more complicated. Two things are going to be happening here. One is when we have multiple control units, that means each one of these is going to be driving a portion of the video. We need to figure out a way to stitch those together. And that's when we start needing to bring in like third-party image processing solutions, video wall processing solutions. Also, when we need to show multiple images out of the box, we can show 4 at the same time. In command and control environment, though, that will not be enough. It needs to show many more sources. So now we need to start introducing, okay, we've got some image processing considerations we need to make. Maybe we need to bring in a partner, work with the integrator or someone to look at, okay, what's going to be the best solution? Because now this needs to live together with other solutions to give you what you need. So it's just part of that bigger conversation. We're happy to get on those joint calls. So as part of that design consultation, we're happy to get on with other manufacturers that are providing those video processing solutions, those image processing solutions. There's many of them out there. So we're always happy to collaborate with them to work on what that best solution is going to be and then how it would need to integrate with our solutions in order to make it work. Yeah, anything else we should probably consider for something like command and control?
Well, we discussed the multi-view inputs.
Yeah.
Matrix.
What about if we need to control this and we need to like recall inputs and things like that? Is that something we can do with our direct views? Control systems.
Control systems, yeah. We've got fully integrated control systems, whether it's RS-232 or over IP.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah. RS-232 or IP. We're
Crestron, Extron, everybody. QSys, everybody out there we can integrate with.
Yeah, we recently got our QSys certification on it as well. So, but yeah, any of the major control manufacturers you can use to control these. So if we need to switch inputs or move things around, we can certainly do that as well. We can look at a couple things here, like the screen resolution is pretty wonky. Obviously the aspect ratio is going to be pretty out of control. We can almost ignore it at this point. The important thing is going to be to go in there and make sure that we have that image processor that's going to be capable of doing that. Again, I flew through here because it's pretty easy to get that going once we know things like the dimensions, how much available space, how many sort, that kind of thing. We can go through here pretty quickly to get that going. And then again, let's say command and control, we want to make sure the color calibration is going to be the same. We're going to include 20 spare tiles with this. But let's say we want more, we can put in another 20, put in another 30, however we want. The good news is that all of our configurable products use what's called glue on board. So even our LDS here does as well. This is like an epoxy coating that's put over the LEDs. So instead of them being exposed, there's an impact rated epoxy coating that's put on it. So we can go up and we can, during installs, things like that, you can touch it, you can knock on it. It can go through that abuse that a lot of direct view LEDs go through without damaging these. So the replacing them with spares is much less common than it used to be because there's a lot less opportunity to damage these.
They're IP54 rated.
Yes.
Put that out there.
They're IP54. So if you happen to spill some water or something on there, they're also IK06, which is an impact rating. So we can give this some pretty good hits. I know. But we can give it some pretty good hits and it's going to be okay. So I just wanted to point that out that you don't always need as many spares as you might think because of this durability that they have. A lot of times what was happening before this coating is even just touching it, you do this enough times over time and LEDs are going to start falling out, or if you impact it, that would be a reason why you had to replace it. Versus now with this glue on board, it's really only if there's like a failure, like a defect or something like that, that you need to replace it. So it's much less common. All right, so we're going to go with our final, and then we're going to go to a Q&A. So we're going to reset that. We're going to bring that. We're going to bring this back down. Yes. Make it much smaller again. I'm going to do a more normal size for this. All right. So our last application we're going to do is what if we want to get really custom? What if you've got like a retail space, you've got an art space or something where, hey, I don't want a rectangle or square. I want to get a little crazier with it. Is that something that we can do with our direct view?
That sounds like a challenge, Shane.
It does sound like a challenge, yeah.
But that is definitely something we can do.
Okay. So we are going to just look at
Go ahead.
how much availability we have here. So let's say we have a doorway. So imagine a retail space and you've got a large doorway at a mall or something like that, but you really want to make an impact.
Yeah.
Well, cute little thing we can do is if we start clicking on these tiles, we're removing them and adding them. So if we want to make a doorway space, we can do that. And this is where we can start doing custom shapes and things like that. So now in this environment, what we've done is we've created like this doorway opening right here. If we want, if it's double doors, we can even do something like this. And so now there's a direct view that's surrounding it. Now this is definitely going to be a situation where you want to plan, you're planning this around the direct view and vice versa. But we can go in here and pretty easily make a very custom solution like this. There's going to be some considerations that you need to make on this, but I just showed you how easy it was to go in and actually, this part is the easy part.
That's the easy part.
Yeah, designing the actual direct view is the easy part. Where it's going to get a little more difficult is that now you have to make content around this. So what are some of the caveats or things we need to keep in mind for that?
So a real big one to consider when making something like this with the doorways or something custom is the resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because our image is still going to be processed at that resolution we're putting out, which is, what is that, 2560 by 1344. So it's still going to be that square image coming out.
Okay, yeah, good call. To illustrate that maybe a little more, what I'm going to do is let's pretend we have a shape like this. Let's say there's the opening here, but we're just going to do this. What we notice though is the screen resolution is actually for this entire square or rectangular area, right? There's no way to make a screen resolution that addresses this horizontal, but not this, or this vertical and not this. So when you're making your content, it's still going to be centered around this screen resolution right here. Now, you can put just black images here. It doesn't really matter because you're not going to see it. But when you're making the content and you're looking at your what's providing the content, a PC or digital content player, you need to make sure it can output this resolution, because that's what's actually going to be sent to this, even though these are not being used. But this is definitely something we can do. Like I said, it's pretty easy to do. It's really planning around everything else with it that you really need to worry about, but definitely something we can do. So with that, I am going to complete our design consultations. I know we probably spent a lot more time talking about the considerations outside the configurator. That is because the actual configuration of this with our all-in-ones are very easy. It's very quick. A lot of times it's really the planning around it, but again, we're here to partner with you on that. So we want you to feel comfortable with it. We want you to get on the phone with someone like Maz or many of his counterparts here to have these conversations, to get a direct view that's going to fit your space, but also make it easy, accessible, and simple for you. We don't want to overcomplicate it, but still be able to provide these large format solutions to you. So with that, I think we're good to go to our Q&A and bring Mina back.
Hi, Shane and Maz, thank you both so much. That was really informative. I love how you guys kind of walked through those 4 different scenarios. We talked a lot. It was a lot of good information, a lot of good considerations. Like you said, we covered power, mounting, multiple control boxes, how that impacts the design. I think, Shane, you also touched upon content strategy and making sure that output for the resolution matches. So thank you. That was all very informative. I am going to start covering some questions here. So we obviously talked a lot about the design consultation process. So one of the questions we got here is, how does somebody start that consultation process?
Yeah, great question. So for that, it's as simple as reaching out to your ViewSonic rep and letting them know, like, hey, I'm looking at a direct view LED solution. Can we chat more? They'll bring in a member of the field solutions team and then arrange a call. It's as simple as that. If you don't know who your rep is, you can go on to our direct view LED page on our website and request more information. Once you do that, that'll get sent to your local rep, and then they'll reach out to you to get that call scheduled.
Awesome. And then this question always comes up on all of our DVLED webinars, but it's about spare tiles. You know, I think there's concern if things get damaged. Are spare tiles provided?
Yeah. So we kind of covered that during it, but it's really good to reinforce that we include 5% spare tiles on all of our direct view LED products. So whether it's this, the mobile one, whether it's the pre-configured, or whether it's these custom ones, 5% is always included. On the pre-configured, because we stock these, it's always going to be that 5% calibrated spare tiles. For the custom ones, the configurable ones, the benefit to that is, like I showed, you can put in the configurator that you would like more. And that's the time to do it, because these are all batched and calibrated at the factory. So we do need to do it when it's being made, but with the configurable ones, we can go ahead and add additional ones. So the 5% is included at no cost. And then anything above that, you pay per tile, but you can get as many spares as you would like, and they would be calibrated with the rest of the unit.
Awesome. And then I think during the discussion, there was mention about that pre-installation checklist, guided installation. One of the questions is, what are some of the details that are provided in that?
Yeah, I'll let Moz take that one.
Yeah, so some of the details that are provided in the pre-installation checklist is a lot of the stuff that we already reviewed, right? It's the requirements, the walls, the weight, the installation that we're going to be going over, and the processes. So we'll get in detail once we talk about the space and what the requirements are, and then we'll go over the checklist. And then in the environment, of course, is also in there. We want to make sure these aren't going outdoors or an exposed environment, right? These are all indoor direct views.
Okay. Yeah, so Moz mentioned the checklist. So there's actually like a pre-installation checklist to go over in that pre-installation call. It's not uncommon to bring different trades into that call as well. So, you know, the most common one is probably going to be the AV integrator, but electricians can be involved in that call. We've had other trades involved in that to say, okay, here's the circuits that we need, or the amperage that we need. This is where we need the recessed outlet or the box to be installed. Hey, do we have lifts? Are we going to be ready to go? You know, then again, measure twice, cut once kind of thing. Do we have everything we need for this successful install, so we don't have any surprises on the day of? And then for the on-site guided installation, that also helps. That pre-installation checklist makes sure that when a member of ViewSonic does come on site, and that is included with the purchase of these configurable systems, when a member of ViewSonic does come on site and kind of help guide through that, we kind of went over that a little earlier, help guide through that install, help do training, commissioning, things like that. It makes sure that there's going to be enough time to install it, and then also have time to do the commissioning and the training as well, and let that visit be as productive as possible. I'll also say we are going to be launching a DirectView LED installation certification program here very soon, led by our own Moz, where we give you the knowledge that we have. And so the certification program is going to be designed to give our integration partners the tools needed for successful installs. So we go over a lot of what we went today. The difference is there's a lot of hands-on sections to show, okay, here's how to actually mount it. Here's some things you're going to encounter. Here's how to align it. Here's some time, you know, and it's a 2-day course that's going to go through that. So we're going to have more details soon, but I did want to throw that out there as well, that, you know, we have the on-site, but then we're also going to have the ability to equip you to be able to service your customers directly without needing ViewSonic to come on as well. So that's one of the other ways, you know, we partner with you and kind of give you that option of which way you'd like to go.
Great. Yeah. Like Shane mentioned, we're really excited about that, the DVLED certification program. That is something that we're starting to host in December and kind of roll out. So stay on the lookout for more information on that. I know we're coming a little tight on time, so I'll just ask 1 or 2 questions more here. Someone did ask, this is a really great question, what differentiates these displays against your competitors?
That is a very good question. One of the biggest differentiators here is the customizable nature of this while still being an all-in-one. So we're able to do these customizations, but because it's all-in-one and the way that we approach all-in-one, it eliminates a lot of the complexities that you might see with some of the competitive systems. So I mentioned like the image stitching and mapping, right? When you do these custom all-in-ones, you don't have to do that though. You're not going to be sitting here for a couple hours trying to map everything out or use any software. So that software-free experience is definitely a differentiator for us. I mentioned the glue on board. Everything we make is going to have that protective coating on it. So it's going to, all of our direct views have some form of that, whether it's the IK06 or even the chip on board for the LDP is IK08, which is even higher. So we're always looking at that durability and reliability on everything. So a lot of it's the ViewSonic partnership and the simplicity we provide, and then how we approach DirectView LED, that's going to be similar, where we're making sure it's durable and reliable. We're making sure we're helping you but we're also keeping that installation as simple as possible by making everything all in one and including that all in it.
Great. I heard all in one. That was kind of like the main takeaway there. So this will be our last question for today. Once a display is in place and working on the wall, what if I want to make it larger? Can additional panels be added onto the existing display?
That is a phenomenal question. I will try to shorten this as much as I can. Could you? Sure.
Yeah.
Would you want to? No. And the reason for that is going to be the color calibration. So without getting into too much detail, just because we're at time, there's 2 levels to color calibration for LEDs. First is the LEDs have to be from the same batch. And then once that happens, then you can color calibrate them. If you add cabinets and tiles after the fact, by default, they won't be from the same batch, which means you'll never be able to color calibrate them exactly to the existing wall. So there'll be a color difference there, which you do not want. So you could, but you don't want to. At that point, you would want to replace the wall and then repurpose the other one.
And then additionally, we'd have to remap the wall. And
then we'd have to
power
remap
requirements
the wall,
and all that would change.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Great. Well, that was, we're coming right at the hour. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for all your questions. If we were not able to get to your questions, we will be sending out an email of this webinar recording, as well as more information about our LDC configurable series that we just went over. So feel free to reach back out to us. Again, you could always visit us at ViewSonic.com, land on our direct video wall pages, fill out a form, or you can always reach out directly to your ViewSonic rep to get more information. And so thank you, everyone. I hope it was informational. And thank you again, Shane and Maz.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.